Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene has shocked the world with a statement about wanting to do what Democrats want to do in Congress. So what I'm referring to is the effort by congressional Democrats to extend the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. Without those subsidies, without the extension of those subsidies, premiums for many Americans are set to double. And shockingly, and I say shockingly because this is uncharacteristic of a Republican lawmaker, Marjorie Taylor Greene is worried about that and wants to do something about it. Cenk.
Guys, this is a huge story. Real populism might have started today. Because this is not about Epstein files. She agreed with Democrats before on that. We're getting some tiny amount of agreement on Israel. Said this is on economic issues. She's defending Obamacare.
No, she's not defending Obamacare.
No, in a sense she is, she is. No. So we're gonna give you all the details. So you're gonna see, she takes shots at this and that. There's plenty we don't agree on. But the very core of it is her agreeing with Democrats on making sure that Obamacare is not messed with by the Republicans. So but the why is the most important part. So let's tell you what she's doing, and then I'll tell you why I'm so excited about it.
Okay, I'm gonna be on my best behavior and give you guys accurate and measured information.
Come on.
And so when Cenk does the thing that Cenk likes to do, which is exaggerate the optimism, I'm not saying discount that, but just try to balance it with me. Okay.
No, yeah, but just real quick, Anna. Look, she's gonna give you the facts. That's what we always do on the Young Turks. And then I'm gonna interpret those facts and then you're gonna agree or disagree. So let's have fun.
Fair enough. So let's start with the fact that Congresswoman Greene did state that she is not a fan of the Affordable Care Act. In fact, she wrote, "I was not in Congress when all this Obamacare, Affordable Care Act BS started. I got here in 2021. As a matter of fact, the ACA made health insurance unaffordable for my family after it was passed, with skyrocketing premiums higher than our house payment." Now look, for some that might seem like an exaggeration, but that is actually an experience that I've heard repeated by many people, including some of my close friends who went into the health insurance exchange and realized, oh my God, I'm actually gonna end up paying more for health insurance than I previously was.
Sorry, I'm gonna interrupt for a second.
Oh my God.
But there's a reason why. I just wanna explain to people before we brush past that. It's an aside, but part of the reason was because pre-existing conditions were not covered before. So once you cover people with pre-existing conditions, which is almost everybody, yeah, your premiums go up a little bit. There's still plenty of things wrong with Obamacare, like the mandate and basing it on private insurance. But understand that's why that phenomena happened.
So she says, let's just say as nicely as possible, I'm not a fan. And you know what, fair enough, okay? And there are flaws with the Affordable Care Act. We've talked about them in detail on this show before. There were also wonderful parts of the Affordable Care Act, including the fact that people's children can stay on their health insurance plans up until the age of 26. You can't get rejected for a pre-existing condition. But the fact that there weren't adequate price controls baked into the Affordable Care Act, the fact that there was no public option, those are some of the big flaws, and she's referring to that in her statement. She also made it very clear that she does not want any federal money to go to healthcare for undocumented immigrants, writing that in all caps, no funding for illegals and any benefits for them. So she's very clear on that. And she added one more caveat before she talked about the importance of extending the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. She said, also, I think health insurance and all insurance is a scam. Just be clear.
No, that's ridiculous. There's of course a reason for insurance.
Well, no, hold on. I don't think the concept of health insurance is a scam. I think the way our health insurance programs are set up happen to be a scam.
Yes, so that's why as we get into the interpretation in a second here, you'll see like this is way more nuanced than you think it is. So if she means we shouldn't have any insurance of any sort, that's insane. If she means our current system sucks, which I think you're right is what she means,
yeah.
Then she's right.
Yeah, okay. So despite all her hangups, Congresswoman Greene stated that young Americans are facing some pretty enormous financial pressures. And if these subsidies expire, and they are set to expire, the problem will only get worse. She says, I'm going to go against everyone on this issue because when the tax credits expire this year, my own adult children's insurance premiums for 2026 are going to double, along with all the wonderful families and hardworking people in my district. Okay, I'm gonna pause and comment on that because it kind of reminds me of what eventually led to widespread acceptance of gay people and gay marriage. It was the fact that people were coming out to their families as gay, and that helped to humanize the gay community. In this particular case, our broken healthcare system is obviously personally affecting Marjorie Taylor Greene. Honestly, this made me think about Tucker Carlson as well, because while some might argue, oh, his economic populism is all fake, I actually don't think that's the case. He's got a ton of kids, and his kids can't afford to buy a home, even though he himself grew up, very affluent and all of that. The fact that his own children are having difficulty, hitting the milestones that his generation easily hit is part of the reason why he feels motivated to talk about our broken, economy and how we need to do something about it. Now, Greene also referred to one of her signature policy positions, no more money for foreign wars, which I am 100% in favor of. She says our country spent $30 billion or sent $30 billion to Israel in 2024 alone, killing countless innocent children, and sent hundreds of billions to Ukraine in the past few years. All our country does is fund foreign countries and foreign wars and never does anything to help the American people. Hear, hear.
Let's talk about something that drives every business owner absolutely crazy: trying to hire the right people. It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. You post a job and you flood it with resumes, but most of them don't have the right skills or experience. It's a huge hassle, honestly, but not with ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter finds amazing candidates for you, and they do it fast. And now you can try it for free at ziprecruiter.com/TYT. Now here's why it works. The moment you post your job, their smart matching technology gets to work. It's not just sitting there waiting for people to find it and apply. It's actively searching and identifying top qualified talent that fits your role. It sends them your way, and then it does the hard part of the hiring for you. But don't worry, you're still in full control. If you find a candidate you like, ZipRecruiter allows you to send a personalized invite to apply message. It eliminates the waiting game and gets the right people to engage with your job posting sooner rather than later. So ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for, the needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at the exclusive web address ziprecruiter.com/TYT. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/TYT. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
And she also called out Republican leadership, meaning members of her own party, for failing to have a plan in place when it comes to helping Americans out after those Affordable Care Act subsidies expire. She says not a single Republican in leadership talked to us about this or has given us a plan to help Americans deal with their health insurance premiums doubling. And she even took it a step further, everyone. Okay, she said that not both, but she says that health, auto, and home insurance have all become unaffordable. And she seems like she wants to do something about it. Luckily, there is a congressman on the other side of the political aisle, Ro Khanna, who is willing to work with her. And to her credit, she has said that she's willing to work with anyone to find solutions to these very real affordability issues. Ro Khanna says, yes, unaffordability is the issue, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's do something bipartisan to bring cost of living down. So look, that does give me a little bit of hope, because for the first time, probably in my adult life, I'm seeing a real genuine effort of members of Congress across the political spectrum attempting to find solutions to problems that we've been dealing with for decades in this country. Let's see if it actually comes to fruition, because we still have many partisan-brained, self-interested narcissists in Congress. That's why Congress has such a low approval rating. But who knows, maybe this could actually spark a new era in America where our public servants actually behave as public servants. We'll see.
Yeah, here comes a nuclear blast of hope.
Okay, come on.
So first, to Anna's points, the overall healthcare system is a debacle. Every other developed nation has universal healthcare. They don't let people die in the streets because they couldn't afford insurance. It just and they find it unconscionable. They can't believe that America has a system this bad, especially when we're the richest nation on earth, right? So Nina Turner responded to Marjorie Taylor Greene and said, "You're right, the whole thing's a mess. We should actually get universal health care." Correct. Ro Khanna responds. Now look at this. Anna's also right about this. 98% of Congress is a wasteland, just owned completely by the donors. But now, all of a sudden, a couple of champions have popped up on the left and the right, okay? So Tom Massey's championing real conservatives on the right and saying, no, we said America first, we meant America first. Ro Khanna is just introducing every relevant bill in Congress, reaching out exactly when he should, etc. He's been an unbelievable leader from the left, and he's saying the same thing. This is about real people and their actual problems, which is affordability, right? So now, why is Marjorie Taylor Greene in this group? Because historically, she's been a huge warrior. I've been a huge warrior on the left and she's on the right, right? So why are we beginning to find common ground in ways that are totally unexpected, even on economic issues, right? Number one, the power of the donor class has diminished with some Congress people. The reason why 98% are still corrupt is because they're totally hooked, like with an IV to the donor class. Like, oh yeah, oh big pharma, hit me again, big pharma, right? Oh, big insurance, oh yeah, hit me again. I'm mixing a lot of drug analogies. Anyways, big pharma should appreciate that. But now the folks who are beginning to wean themselves off of the corporate cash, Ro Khanna has forever been free of corporate PAC money. That's why he's always been one of the leading figures fighting for what's right and fighting for the people. So that's development number one. Now some Republicans and more Democrats are getting off of corporate PAC money and foreign government PAC money. Huge development. Number two, Fox News's power has diminished. Before, Fox News and mainstream media, but Fox News is for the mainstream media of the right, had an assembly line of talking points. And that's all anybody ever heard them and Rush Limbaugh. And they would always say the same thing. And so every time I talked to a right winger, it would be a conveyor belt of the same exact predictable talking points. Now Fox News is less important. There's a whole range of opinions on the right now on a number of issues. Later in the show, we're gonna talk about Israel and how there's this giant rift on that, right? Why? Because the shows don't all have to serve Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch, for whatever reason, is insanely pro-Israel as an example, but also massively pro-big business. He is big business, right? So the talking points are big business is great, corporate rule is the best, and you better say that, otherwise we're gonna say you're gay. Whatever, right? This is the kind of weirdo things they do, and they start the culture wars. But since they're not controlling right-wing voters anymore, right-wing politicians are now more untethered from them. And finally, the real world effects, especially on economic issues, are inescapable, right? Maybe you don't know that your money is being sent to Israel, and it doesn't have a daily effect on your life, right? And I could say that about so many other issues. But when the premiums on your healthcare double, there's no way of BSing around that. So the corrupt politicians come go, oh yes, of course. And by the way, this is the policy of the entire Republican Party, minus Marjorie Taylor Greene at this point. And they can say, oh yeah, you're doubling your premiums is better. It's better if you give to big health insurance companies. You should have less money and the health insurance companies should have more money. Otherwise, you're a Marxist, Maoist, socialist, right? Well, that crap's not working anymore. So that is three huge phenomenon. And despite all that, we have just the tip of the iceberg, which, right?
Let me, okay. I want to be fair because that's not what Republicans argue, right? They don't argue your premiums are going to double and you're going to like it, right? No,
they don't. I literally think that's what they're arguing. So tell me.
Okay, well you're being unfair.
Okay,
and by the way, I disagree with the Republican argument, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to give you their actual argument, and then I'm going to explain why I disagree with them. Yeah. They argue, no. The problem that we have in our health insurance system or healthcare system is that we are not allowing for real free market capitalism, right?
They're so full of crap. Okay, I'll explain why in a second.
Jake, just let me make my point. Come on, bro, seriously. Okay, so they argue like there isn't enough free market capitalism. But okay, let's look at the pharmaceutical companies. The argument here is if you just allow for competition to happen, competition will happen. Except that hasn't occurred in literally any other private industry in this country, including, by the way, our media industry is a good example of monopolizing and all of that. You look at the pharmaceutical industry. What happened with the EpiPen? Especially when Joe Manchin's daughter was the head of the pharmaceutical company producing the EpiPen. Well, when the patent was about to run out, and when Pfizer was developing its own generic version of the EpiPen, she hit up the CEO of Pfizer, this is well documented by the way, and colluded with him to prevent him from putting out their own generic version of the EpiPen, which would be obviously a lot cheaper, and said, here's what I'll do, I'm gonna increase the price of the EpiPen, and in lieu of a generic version, obviously Americans have no choice but to buy the expensive EpiPen brand name version, and I'll do some profit sharing with you. That's the kind of stuff that actually goes on. So unless you have, proper regulations in place, you actually enforce antitrust laws, and we already know that there are already huge issues with that because you have all these corrupt government officials coming in and doing favors for these corporations. This whole idea of the free market capitalism never actually works out the way that these Republicans say that it will work out.
No, then we agree. So
I know, we do agree. I'm just saying I want to give the actual argument they make instead of like mischaracterizing.
No, Anna, I'm not mischaracterizing it. I'm gonna break it down right now. So first of all, if we're talking about Republican politicians, not Republican voters, okay? Republican voters actually have their premiums doubled and they're not happy with it. They're like, oh, thank God for free market capitalism, because that's a lie. Republican politicians say, free market capitalism because they know that's what appeals to you. It's a talking point that sounds pleasant and good and all American, right? So we broke this down back in the day when they were trying to get rid of Obamacare. And they said, oh, but a free market will lead to deregulation through the states. And then you look more into it. And what that means is it's a race to the bottom. So that would allow them to find one state that'll let them do anything they want without any regulations. And so then it'll seem like, oh, that's a cheaper plan. But then it doesn't cover anything. It brings back pre-existing condition bans. It brings back all the terrible things of a system that was even worse than it is today. So they're trying to trick you by calling it free market capitalism when it is no such thing at all. Those are the same politicians, now 99% of the Republican Party, but also like 80% of the Democratic Party, who say, oh, we should not negotiate drug prices. Well, there's nothing worse for a free market than not allowing negotiation.
Yeah,
that is
true.
the very opposite of a free market. So I just want you guys to understand that politicians use gimmicks and talking points and propaganda. So they could say free market, but the result of that in this case is it does double your premium. So the Republican politician is trying to get you to believe that doubling your premium is somehow great for you because of free market. Brother, you can use that word and that phrase, but it doesn't make it true. So that's why I'm saying we agree. Yes, technically they are claiming it's for free markets, but in reality it's not for free markets at all. It's to help their donors get richer and richer. And yes, your premium will double, that's a fact.
Okay, and then final thing I'll just say about this. Look, I am, along with Marjorie Taylor Greene apparently, in favor of extending the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. But I want to be very clear about something. The fact that we need to subsidize the Affordable Care Act in order for it to be somewhat affordable for Americans is a problem. It's a big problem. That shows that the policy itself is so utterly flawed that we, the taxpayers, have to fund subsidies in order to help our fellow Americans afford their premiums. So look, I know that there are a lot of Democrats who watch this show. I can see that every time we do a video where we criticize Democrats, we lose subscribers. But you guys have to acknowledge this is a flawed program. Democrats promised, especially back in 2016, when Bernie Sanders, as a Democratic candidate in the Democratic primary, talked about his policy of Medicare for all. All you heard from all the corporate Democrats was no. We can't do that. All we need to do is approve upon the Affordable Care Act. Have they done that? Have they even attempted to? What happened in the last election cycle? How many times did Kamala Harris talk about improving our healthcare system?
Yeah, so but Anna, let me apply the same principles to the Democratic Party that I was just talking about with the right wing. So when you say, sometimes when we criticize Democrats, we lose subscribers, et cetera, that's true. But why? We don't lose the core progressive or populist audience. They already know the corporate Democrats are a disaster and they work for the donor class, et cetera. They already know that Obamacare was actually written by the Heritage Foundation, the same people who wrote Project 2025, okay? So, but a lot of the old school establishment Democratic voters were bewitched, bedeviled, bamboozled by mainstream media, MSNBC, etc. Oh, Obamacare is the greatest thing in the world, but the problem is totally solved thanks to the wonderful Democratic leadership. And they never even point out every other country has universal health care. And by the way, on average, it costs half of what ours costs, half. Why wouldn't we want to get better coverage for half? But our biggest opponents when we go into that fight is not Fox News, it's MSNBC. Because they'll rally the troops. Oh no, bow your heads to Democratic leadership. But Anna, now that's breaking down too. It has finally begun to break down for the same exact reason. Those MSNBC viewers and voters and CNN guys are starting to come online. And yeah, they're going to some shows that are like, Democrats are gods, right? But a lot of them aren't. And then you see it in the polling.
Yeah.
When you ask about Democratic leadership, now Democratic voters go, I'm now also untethered. And I don't give a damn what you think. I care that my premium is doubling and you're not doing a damn thing about it. But in this case, to be fair, Democratic politicians are pushing to do something about it. It's a rare case where they are. I'll take it, I love it. I'm really glad Marjorie Taylor Greene joined. And lastly, guys, tomorrow night, because our paying members are wonderfully generous folks, they've decided, like 3/4 of them said, don't make it just for members. Let's organize the internet, the bonus episode we normally do, make it public for everyone. Let's try to unite the left and the right and show you how to do a peaceful revolution and bring our democracy back. You know me, I'm a true believer. And I don't mind failing, but I'm gonna try, okay? So tomorrow night on the Young Turks at 8 o'clock Eastern, after the main show, 6 to 8 o'clock is the news show. At 8 o'clock, we try to crowdsource a revolution, organize the internet, and actually try to get our democracy back. So if you're hopeful like me, just even if a smidge of hope, you don't have to be as hopeful as me, just a smidge of hope, come and find out and let's try to do this together.